local lawyer and mediator Stephanie Dobson is back with us this week. And once again, Stephanie, we're talking about divorce and some of the proceedings that are involved with it. And today we're going to focus on preparing for a separation or divorce. So can you first tell me about some of the things that should be considered before people take the step of going into all the processes involved with separation and divorce?
Sure. Thanks again for having me, Stacey. You know, it's a hard thing to figure out that final step of whether someone is going to actually separate or not. And before families are considering about talking to lawyers or even making those final steps, I really recommend doing some soul searching and doing some research into what you really want as far as that next step in your life. So I can tell you, I've recently come upon a really great book. It's called Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay, by an author called Mira Kirschenbaum. And what she talks about is really helping families to get out of what she calls that ambivalence trap, which we also call, sort of hanging on the fence about whether to stay or whether to go. And so to me, the real important thing at this stage of whether you're really considering that separation is at the end of the day, being comfortable with that decision, that in fact, it is better to be separated than to be together if that's your ultimate decision.
And Stephanie, once that decision is made, what can they do then to move forward to either go ahead with a separation or a full-on divorce?
So I've come up with my top 3 tips for this one. So the first one is to take that time to deal with the emotions around the separation. So finding someone who's really supportive to you, whether that's a friend or a neighbor, a family member, or even a professional counselor to help you through those emotions. Secondly, is to get legal advice. When people call into our office, sometimes they're not sure, when should I come in for an appointment? I haven't even separated yet, or we just separated a few days ago. When should I come in? The best thing I can advise is come in as soon as possible, because then you're making decisions that are not super time sensitive. You have more time to consider those decisions. And the third thing is to avoid making decisions too soon. Very soon after a separation, there's often lots of emotions. And a really great thing to do is to take time to give each other space and to give yourself space to really consider what you want as far as that next step in your life.
Well, Stephanie, you did kind of allude to it in your last answer, but when is the right time to engage a professional?
Well, like I said before, the earlier the better. So just especially getting initial information is a really great tool. Sometimes we have to make decisions really quickly, but the more time that we have to make those decisions, the more likely that you're going to be making some sustainable decisions.
And when this starts happening, obviously there's a lot that goes on with both sides. How do you know what documents to start preparing and things to get ready to go through this process?
When I meet with families, I have a checklist that I give to them that helps them to walk through exactly the kinds of documents that they'll need to be gathering. And that's partly why I say the earlier that you come in, the earlier that you can start gathering those documents when there's not really a deadline being imposed on you. So in that checklist, there's 2 kind of angles to the types of documents that we need. Number 1 is income-related documents. And the second one is more assets and debts related documents, so property documents. So things like income tax returns, pay stubs, bank statements, credit card statements, mortgage statements, appraisals, those kind of things that's going to help to give your lawyer or mediator a good picture of your financial situation and your employment or income situation.
I know when people start to go through this process, often, Stephanie, they start looking on the internet for solutions and what can we do and how do we find this? You kind of have this all compact in one place with your e-learning community, Up a Notch Learning. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what's in there and what type of resources people can find if they go to see the website.
Sure. I always say with Dr. Google is a very daunting place, and you really get all sorts of information. And as you can imagine, with the divorce world, there's a lot of negative or vengeful type information out there on Dr. Google. And so the community hub that I've created is, as you said, called Up a Notch Learning Inc. And what we try to do is to focus on the positive and constructive resources that families need in order to separate effectively and to get information that they may not know where to get that information. So for example, in the course that we've got, it's called Healthy Thriving Families 101. And it has modules like how to find a divorce professional that's right for you and a negotiation process, how to talk to the kids about separation and divorce wellness, and even how to surround yourself with the right people. So people that are supportive and not toxic. We've also got some great free resources. I've started an interview series with divorce professionals all around the world who are giving us tidbits of information on things that you wouldn't otherwise think about in your separation and divorce. And when I was talking about the book at the beginning of our segment today, that Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay, that book is actually in our book library, and I've also discussed it with in our book club. It was the topic of one of our book clubs. So to get information on Up a Notch Learning, you can go to our website at upanotchlearning.com, and you can join our community for free.
Well, Stephanie, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Always so much information and so much good information. And we will be back chatting with you again next week.
Perfect. Thank you.